Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, they're only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it, but I know they're wrong. Wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Are these the sweet sounds that called the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. There's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee 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 dee. Do 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 do.
Thank you, and welcome to the Muppet Show. Hey, we're gonna have a wonderful show for you tonight, or this morning, as the case may be. Every once in a while, we do a pop culture or a fandom service here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, and I want to explain why before we dive into the world of the Muppets. The Pop Culture Collaborative is an educational organization that uses pop culture as a tool for creating positive social change. They define fandom as a subculture created around a shared interest or passion in a way that builds community and derives meaning from their shared lore and insider language. Star Trek is a great example of a fandom with its conventions, merchandise, spin-offs, and a fan base that is so enthusiastic that they sometimes know more about the lore than the writers of the shows and movies themselves. The Pop Cultural Collaborative, in their workshop titled Narrative Coups, points out that 80% of Americans are part of at least one fandom. I know from talking with one of our people here today that she was part of a fandom and didn't even know that word. In that workshop, They focused on how the sense of community and shared stories has actually made fandoms targets for fascist organizations. Fascist recruiters take advantage of the sense of belonging that comes from fandoms to try to steer people toward their particular ideology. So it seems natural then in this community, where we're not shy about interrupting fascists, that we would explore engaging fandoms in a positive way. We already know a lot here about how shared stories help us make meaning and build community. And we can engage fandoms in a way that celebrates how their stories create meaning that are connected to values like equity, interdependence, and love. So when a handful of congregants approached me about doing a service based around the Muppet fandom, I was all in. I approached these characters with curiosity to see what they could teach me. I was inspired by NPR's podcast called Pop Culture Happy Hour, where they invited listeners to rank their favorite Muppets and then hear them explore how these Muppets are windows to our own souls. So that's what we're going to do today. We will look at some of these very interesting unhuman characters and see what they teach us about being human and about being in community together. The being in community together is an important lesson from the Muppets. Even though they have clear leaders and roles, they are an ensemble cast. They work together, just like we do here. Amongst the top 10 Muppets identified by NPR, Kermit, their fearless leader, was number 1. And he was number 1 in the informal poll that our congregation participated in this week as well. He is definitely the most reflective and thoughtful of the Muppets, so our chalice lighting that will start us on this journey is some words from Kermit.
I've got a dream too, but it's about singing and dancing and making people happy. That's the kind of dream that gets better the more people you share it with. Good morning. I'm Sarah, and I use the pronouns she, hers, and I'm your service leader today. We welcome you, old friends and new, young and old, online and in person. You are an essential part of our gathering today. Whether today is your first or your 1,000th Sunday with us, we are stronger because of your presence. Whether you're a cornball bear, a pig with a diva complex, a chef who doesn't speak a bit of English, or the frog who's just trying to keep it all together, you are welcome to this community of lovers and dreamers. Just as you are welcome here.
The original Muppet Show and the movies that followed are well known for their musical numbers, and 2 of their musicians made it to the top 10. Ralph, the piano-playing dog, was number 5 according to NPR and tied for 7th in our congregation's vote along with 2 other Muppets. If you grabbed a Ralph sticker on your way into the sanctuary this morning, raise your hand. Nice. Yeah, Ralph is the only one who didn't have a catchphrase. Ralph was one of the very first Muppets, appearing on variety shows with creator Jim Henson years before the Muppet Show began. Once in the show, he was established as the piano player. And he was also the wisecracking surgeon on the reoccurring sketch, Veterinarian's Hospital. Warm, humorous, willing to help, and so laid back. He's the glue that holds community together when the more intense personalities get intense. In the Muppet movies, Ralph was one of Kermit's closest friends, and he often was Kermit's sounding board and listening ear, doing the things for Kermit that Kermit does for everyone else. Our leaders need people like that. every community needs folks like Ralph, who will bend over backwards to move the story forward, supporting the group efforts with a willingness to play along, and carrying a delightfully non-anxious energy all the way through. Thank you, Ralph. The other musician in the top 10 couldn't be more different from Ralph, and that is Animal. Right? He's number 3 in the NPR Top 10 list and tied for 4th along with 2 other Muppets on our congregation's list. And I really love this Chaos Muppet so much. If you chose Animal when you came through the door, raise your hands and say in your best animal voice, "Beat drums!" Beat drums! Animal is pure chaos. If Freud was here, he would say that Animal is the id of humanity, all of those primal instincts embodied in one character, almost like an animal. He plays the drums with wild abandon. Sometimes he gets so into it that he eats his drums. When Animal's on the scene, you know things may spiral wildly out of control and that it will not be boring. I honestly can't point to anyone who fully embodies Animal, and I think that's a good thing. I do think that all of us have a little bit of Animal within us, maybe kind of low on our brainstem where all the drives exist. It's funny to me that we can love animals so much, yet so many of us can be uneasy with our own chaotic drives. Maybe Animal's popularity can invite us, can open the door to loving the facets of ourselves that wants to embrace the things that make us go a little wild, eat everything in sight, and hit some drums really, really hard. And of course, on a Sunday where our fandom is so musical, we've got some amazing musical acts to draw from. Karis is going to tell us a little bit about our first musical offering of the day.
Let's have a little hoo-hoo if you know who Harry Belafonte is. Hoo-hoo! All right. The great, late Harry Belafonte would take many journeys for inspiration, and one of his journeys took him to the east part of Guinea in Africa. And on this journey, he assimilated himself into one of the local communities and was gaining exposure to their origin tales. So Turn the World Around is the result of one of those origin tales. Who are we? What are we doing here? Who are you? And how can we come together to live together? I would like to invite you to sing on the chorus of this song if you would like. The chorus is, "Oh, oh, so is life. Ah, ah, so is life." And I would like for all of these other beautiful musicians to join me. Liz on the drums, Lenore helping us lay down the vocals, and of course, our amazing Wendy.
Fire,
Our next Muppet is truly unique. The Swedish Chef was number 9 in the NPR survey and number 10 in our survey. If you chose Swedish chef, say, bork, bork, bork. While a lot of our Muppet 10 give us opportunities to reflect on who we are, the Swedish Chef, that's really hard to say, Swedish Chef, is a simpler kind of fun that offers us brilliant physical and visual comedy. We can't do it justice by speaking about it, so instead, we have a video clip for you. If you're watching on YouTube, we can't show this, but we can invite you to open a new tab in your browser and search for Swedish Chef Meatball. That's Swedish Chef Meatball in YouTube. The Swedish Chef shows us that sometimes we don't need to understand a word to understand what's happening.
Like the Swedish Chef, our next Muppet, Beaker, isn't the easiest to understand. If you chose a Beaker sticker when you came in, raise your hand and say, me, me, me! Me, me, me! Beaker was number 4 in the NPR survey and number 2 in our survey. I still remember being a small child and watching the original Muppet Show and having so much distressed empathy for poor Beaker. He had to endure so many experiments gone wrong as the lab assistant to Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Look at poor Beaker. With his eyes bugging out and his hair standing on end, he has been through a lot, y'all. And I totally understand what it feels like to be in that frazzled headspace. My hair can't stand up quite that well, though. The thing to remember about Beaker is that while he is full of anxiety, it's actually very justifiable situational anxiety. He has been shrunk, cloned, punched, deflated, zapped, turned invisible, and blown up. And he keeps coming back. Beaker was probably not meant to be one of the most popular Muppets. He was originally designed to just be the victim, but he has become so much more. Thanks to the internet, Beaker won a Webby Award in 2008 for a wildly creative rendition of Ode to Joy, which has 37 million views on YouTube. There is something about this guy who has captured our hearts. Maybe it's because he's the embodiment of the idea that we show up even when we're scared. Maybe it's because he invites us to empathy. Maybe it's because strange, anxious little guys are just so easy to love.
So based on my outfit, you might think that Kermit would be my favorite Muppet, and you would be correct. However, I'm going to talk to you about another who holds a special place in my heart and the hearts of many other quote-unquote weird kids. Gonzo was number 2 in the NPR poll and tied for 4th in the church's poll along with 2 other Muppets. Who's the guy you call on when you need a good plumber, an excellent Charles Dickens impersonator, or someone to shoot out of a cannon? Gonzo the Great's all of those things and more, and while he may be remembered most for his unapologetic wackiness, my favorite Gonzo moments are when he sits in quiet contemplation, wondering where he truly belongs, staring at the stars, wishing he were someone else after a rejection from Madeline Kahn, and having nightmares about being excluded from Noah's Ark. Like many of us, Gonzo worries about being alone and not having a place in the world. But each time, he comes back to himself and realizes, with the help of Kermit and the others, that he belongs and that he matters just as he is. The Muppets may not be his blood, they may not even be his species, but they are his family, and that's community.
Okay, it's time once again for that furry, fuzzy, funny man, fabulous, freewheeling, fast and frantic. It's Fozzie Bear! Yay!
Hey, wait. Not so fast, Kermit. Tonight I'm going to use your assistance.
Hold on one second, Fozzie. All right. Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir. You and I are going to tell the world's funniest joke.
Is that right?
This is all spontaneous, unrehearsed, right, Froggy?
It's unrehearsed, yes.
Okay. Now, Frog of my heart,
Yes.
you will wait. Just wait until I say the word here. And when you hear me say the word here, you'll rush up to me and say, "Good grief, the comedian's a bear!"
Good grief, the comedian's a bear.
Check.
When you say the word here.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay, here we go. Now then, hiya. You're such a wonderful looking audience. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good grief, the comedian's a bear.
Not yet.
But you said here.
That was the wrong here.
Which is the right here.
The other here.
Sure.
Go. Okay. Hey, folks. This is a story you're gonna love to hear.
Good grief, the comedian's a bear.
Will you stop that?
Sorry. But you said here.
Not that here.
Well, which here?
Another here.
How am I gonna know?
You know what you hear.
Good grief, the comedian's a bear.
All right.
Yes, what?
Listen, you'll know when I point to you.
Okay.
All right, don't grumble. Say, a funny thing happened to me on the way to theater. At a stage door, I passed a bunch of Muppet fans and suddenly I hear...
Good grief, the comedian's a bear.
No, he's not. He's wearing a necktie.
Fozzie Bear, ladies and gentlemen. If you have gathered anything about my sense of humor over the years, it's that Fozzie's awful dad joke style is kind of my thing. Fozzie was number 7 in the NPR survey and is tied for 4th in our survey. If you chose Fozzie, say, waka waka. Waka waka. There is so much to like about Fozzie. He loves what he does so much. He will yes and with everyone and everything. He's just happy to be part of the creative process. He constantly fails. His jokes bomb constantly, and he is constantly optimistic about his prospects. Brian Henson, one of Jim Henson's sons, says of Fozzie, Fozzie is always telling terrible jokes, but he's just trying so hard that you've got to love him. And we need more of that kind of attitude in life and in community. In an increasingly perfectionistic world, Fozzie Bear's attitude invites us to sing because we love singing, to paint because we love painting, to write because we love writing, and basically just do what gives us joy, and to find the reward in the creative process itself. If you've got a sense of calling to anything, any real passion that you love, then you might relate to Fozzie. He reminds us that we're not going to execute our vision perfectly, especially when we're just getting started learning something, but that perfection was never the point anyway. which leads us inevitably to Fozzie's counterpoint. These guys. Waldorf and Statler are number 10 in NPR's top 10, and they are tied for 7th amongst our congregation. If you chose a Waldorf and Statler sticker, say, boo. I will be the first to admit that watching these guys is hilarious from the safe distance of my couch and TV screen. They always have something cutting to say about the cast of the Muppet Show who are trying so hard. I wonder why they keep on showing up if they hate everything so much, and they wonder too, according to the theme song. When we take a step back and we look at the Muppets as a way of thinking about community, we can appreciate optimistic Fozzie, sincere Grover, laid-back Ralph, and maybe even chaotically enthusiastic Animal. But what do Waldorf and Statler teach us about community and our place in it? I think they're a great reminder to all of us that there are always going to be critics. Each of us here are actively engaged in the things that we're passionate about, whether it's justice work, exploring intriguing philosophies, teaching, creating more beauty in the world, and the list goes on and on. And there are just going to be people that we each encounter who aren't actually doing anything, but instead are criticizing those who are doing the doing. It's hilarious when it's two fictional old guys made out of felt and foam and we're not the target. And it hurts in real life. But like the Muppets, our show must go on, so let's focus on all the folks, or Muppets, who are creating with us instead. Y'all, I have some big feelings about Miss Piggy. She was number 8 in NPR's top 10 and is number 3 in our ranking. If you chose, what an interesting difference, right? I have big feelings about that too. And I don't have time to get into why that might be. If you want to have a cup of coffee with me later, I might tell you about it. If you chose Miss Piggy when you came in the door, I want you to say, hi! Hi! Nice! Miss Piggy would be so proud. Even in an ensemble cast, there's a need for a little star power, and Miss Piggy has got it. She brings her full diva self with her everywhere that she goes. She's very quotable. I love this one. I don't care what you think of me, unless you think I'm awesome, in which case you are right. On my very best day, I have not felt that confident. In many ways, she was ahead of her time, the only female in the top 10 in a very male-dominated fandom. She pretends to be a delicate flower, conform to the standards of femininity, but the second that she gets angry, she becomes the strongest and most dangerous character on the show. She has never once subjected herself to a diet, loving herself exactly the way that she is. And she reminds us all, beauty is about loving who you are. And if you have a problem with that, may I suggest loving who I am? Now, granted, her stalker-like treatment of Kermit is decidedly less ahead of her time. Someone does need to take her aside and teach her about consent. And she does need to remember that she's part of a team, not a solo act. But her lessons about self-love are still much appreciated and have only grown more relevant as time has gone by. And so we are going to end where we began, and that's with Kermit. His vision and his leadership brings the whole ensemble together and helps them stick through the trials and tribulations of 8 movies, 5 seasons of The Muppet Show, and countless spin-offs and side projects. And there's one song that really speaks to what really holds it all together, and that is the Rainbow Connection.
And just a little hi-ho to all the Kermit fans. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, they're only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it, but I know the wrong way to see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Are those the sweet sounds that call the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. There's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee 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 dee. Do 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 do.
There's something so beautiful about the way that Kermit sees the world as a place full of wonder and beauty. Between his open-hearted point of view and his willingness to do everything he can to see his friends' dreams achieved, it's no wonder that he was #1 for both NPR and our congregation's vote. If you chose Kermit when you came in the door today, I want you to say, "Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here." Kermit is iconic. His popularity has transcended his fandom. Memes of him are everywhere. These are the two most popular, the one where he's being sassy and sipping tea, and then the one that is kind of become this universal symbol for when you're being tempted by your dark side. If you spend time on the internet, you have seen this sort of format. In the Muppet Show, Kermit was often the one trying to bring order and sanity to this diverse cast of Muppets. He was often the normal one who served as a foil for his fellow performers' strange antics. He would naturally get annoyed and frustrated with the others when things didn't go according to plan. I mean, really, who is going to stay calm and grounded when there are explosions all over your theater? Gonzo is pitching an act that involves a cannon. The mad scientist just made a robot version of you, and the pig just will not take no for an answer. But despite the frustrations, Kermit knows that this is his place and these are his people. And I think that any of us who are trying to be leaders in a diverse community of outside-the-box thinkers can relate. This is our place. These are our people. We cannot control them, but we love them. And at least no one is playing racquetball with meatballs in the sanctuary. In season 3, guest star Leslie Ann Warren commented to Kermit that he was the only one on the show that wasn't crazy. But Kermit's response was, "Me not crazy? I hired the others." Kermit understands community. We have encountered so many different models for what it means to be in community and what our part is in it. And while some may work better than others, the Muppet community is big enough to hold all of them. And this community is big enough to hold all of us. One of the ways that we practice this together is in the sharing of our joys and sorrows. So if you'd like to share a joy or a sorrow in person, please use these candles cards, which are located on the back table. And if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuc.org. If you wish to light your own candle, approach the side of the table that is closest to you, and the closer candle keeper will assist you. Please light the candles at the back of the table first so that no one has to reach out over an open flame. If you wish to remain in your seats and have me light a candle for you, please raise your hand until I acknowledge you, and I will light a candle for you. Our community is so much larger than just those who are in the building this morning, so we light one of our front large candles to hold space for those who are not physically present with us, but are ever in our hearts. And we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds.
My bad. Let's extinguish our chalice with some more words of wisdom from Kermit the Frog. He's just gonna lie down. Here's some simple advice. Always be yourself. Never take yourself too seriously. And beware of advice from experts, pigs, and members of parliament.
So, here's one more piece of advice from Kermit. Never worry about failure. It's going to happen, and that's okay. Go ahead. take chances, and you might just find that what feels like failure isn't failure at all. It's what inspires you to dream even bigger. Beloveds, this week, let's dream like Kermit. Let's love ourselves like Miss Piggy. Let's ignore the voice of the critics, and let's keep trying with Fozzie's optimism. We have permission to be weird like Gonzo, and to feel our feelings like Beaker, and to be as incomprehensible as the Swedish chef. May we embrace the fullness of life that lets us be laid back like Ralph one moment and completely wild like Animal the next, all with the earnest sincerity of Grover. May we find our own special group of weirdos that lets us be our truest selves and find our place amongst the lovers and the dreamers. Amen, and blessed be.